मेरी आवाज़ सुनो. So here I was, stationed in Delhi as the highest paid RJ. Delhi was the first station to be launched, which is why I was assigned there, and also because I had more of a Punjabi connect. Not that I had a swagger, but yes, I definitely had a cheerful bounce in my step. The bounce soon turned into a dribble, soon flattened out, and then I was dragging myself to the station every day, but more on this transition later. When I joined, I was given the evening show for which I made my own tagline, Man na man, main tera Ayushman, which eventually became synonymous with my name. I was doing well too with my show featuring amongst the top 5 radio shows in Delhi, but I had my eye on the coveted morning show, also known as the breakfast show, which was the most sought after one as the first show is always assumed to be the face of the station. Anyway, my show got maximum attention from everyone in office, including the sales team, programming team, the CEO, and of course the listeners. One day after wrapping up my evening show, I retired to my flat. Dead tired, during those days I never kept my phone on silent. At 4 am, I got a call from Manav Dhanda, the station head. I was extremely tired and could have just slept off, as I had just finished my work and had no business attending work related calls in the dead of the night, but I picked up. Small interjection here. Big 92.7 FM does pay you well, but it sucks the bloody life out of you. When I picked up the call, I came to know that there was an emergency in the office as the breakfast show jockey had fallen sick. Manav asked me if I could fill in. I immediately said yes and reached the office within an hour to prep for the show. Show went extremely well, and that seemingly silly action of picking up the phone and not letting an opportunity pass, even though my body had practically given up, had given me the breakfast show. So the first voice to resonate in office and to be heard by listeners on Big 92.7 FM that day was mine. Big Chai, the breakfast show, was mine. Code hashtag 5. I can't really elaborate on this one, it is as direct as it gets. Never let go of an opportunity. I treated every day as my first and last day at the job. My show eventually became one of the top 3 shows in Delhi. I shared a good rapport with my CEO, Tarun Katyal, who was fond of me. There was a senior of mine who was actually a young girl who had the hots for me. It was funny how, at times, she would unassumingly brush past me and rub her hand lightly on my shoulder. She even told me once that I should have a girlfriend. When I told her that I had one back in Chandigarh, she suggested I should have one in Delhi too. I managed to keep a straight face and obediently nodded my head. But I wondered what was really going on in her head. In fact, one day Manav too asked me if I had a girlfriend in Delhi, and if not, he suggested I get one. Honestly, the world didn't help me much in remaining honest and committed to my relationship, but I somehow managed to keep my sanity intact. My time at Big FM was hardly easy. Every day was a test of talent and patience. There was a lot of pressure, especially with seniors raving, ranting, standing on my head while I doled out leave-in on Air Links. There was no scope for mistakes. Luckily, I made friends with my producers who made my life easy. Earlier on, it was Shruti and later Rani who has always been this amazing superwoman. Rani is this extraordinarily efficient professional who I became so comfortable working with that her being in the studio with me while I conducted my show didn't bother me at all. In fact, she was well versed with Delhi and would often give me material for the show. Since I hadn't lived in Delhi before, my knowledge of the city was limited, but she knew exactly which flyover was where you would find the best buy for a living room carpet, where you would find parathas at 2 am, which were the best places to hang out, the best moongfali wala in the city, and so on. She knew just about everything, and we made a formidable team. In fact, that was the time she told me that someday I would be a star and she would manage my career. I laughed it off then. A small note here. 9 years later, now in 2015, Rani does manage me, though I don't know how much of a star I am. This was after she had dabbled with many jobs in Dubai and it almost seemed like she would never come back to India. And I was still struggling with my career. During my radio days in Delhi, I was staying with my maternal aunt Sunita Masi, who has been working as a librarian at Indian Institute of Public Administration, where all IAS officers work, and my uncle, her husband, who is a doctor. I was sharing the room with Siddharth, their son, who at that time was studying at St. Stephen's College and had introduced me to something called Metallica, I was extremely happy, not just because of this job at Big FM, but because I was now a part of this big city. The fact that I was in Delhi and making a living for myself made me feel pretty content. Everyone had their own life in the household I was staying in, but somehow my uncle doubted my character. He couldn't fathom why I had chosen to work in radio. In his eyes, it was a frivolous job to begin with, and was demanding so much of my time, at times even 16 hours in a day. He formed his own conclusions and was convinced that I was goofing around, or to put it exactly the way he thought, sleeping around with girls. I don't know if he is still convinced about the pressure of my job with the kind of work pressure at Big FM. Forget about wooing and sleeping around with women. I think even married people didn't get much action with their better halves. Both my aunt and uncle loved me, but my uncle still switched on the television in the room where I slept to watch the news of 6 am despite me having reached home at 3 am. That was the time I decided to shift out to a rented apartment. I deserved some rest after a tiring day at work. This new development wasn't essentially liberating, as running a household was not my cup of tea. My mom had to come down from Chandigarh every weekend to ensure that the house was in order. I mostly lived at work, so much so that Rani found me a corner in the office where I slept for 2 hours every day. Amongst my close friends, there were Manisha, Shruti, Rani, Manish Gunthe, and Pavan Sharma. Praveen, our marketing head, was really sweet. Her daughter was my fan. Surprising as it might sound, as an RJ, I too had fans, though I'm not sure how loyal they were. Most of them, I realized over a period of time, were anoraks, basically those who are addicted to the radio and frequently call up all the RJs at all the stations. Perhaps it was the new wave of viewer appeasement that attracted listeners in hordes. Every show had a contest and some prize attached to it, so I wasn't really sure if the listeners were fans of our voices and content or followed us for the prizes. But there was one person who truly was my fan. His name was Devendra Sharma, and he lived in a place called Bagpat, which is close to Delhi. He used to religiously listen to my show every morning while on the train to Delhi on his way to work. On weekends, he used to specially come to office with half a kilo of balu shai, an Indian sweet, which had precisely 8 pieces, and there was always only one piece left for me. The rest was polished off by Rani, Manish, and the others. Actually, they knew that if the dabba reached me, I would devour all of it by myself, like I had done on several other occasions. So, as a rule, the box always reached me last with only piece left in it. It was the most amazing balushai I have ever had. Once an idea struck me and I began expressing my foodie desires on air in the hope that some or the other loyal fan might find a culinary way to impress me, and it worked. Shruti used to bring dahi ki sabzi to the office, which I loved. Recently, when I went to Delhi's Red FM office to promote Mitti Di Khushboo, Shruti got me the same delicious sabzi. I was touched by her sweet gesture. From being a trainee working under me to being the program head at Red FM today, she has come a long way. She makes me so proud. I remember this funny incident around Valentine's Day when we ran a contest in which the winner would get to go on a date with me. So, here I had an official chance to date a hot woman, but sadly, all the hot ones were not giving the right answers. Shruti selected a winner, overlooking all the hot ones. Though personally disappointed, I think I somehow managed to impress the winner. The drill at Big FM continued for another 2 years, and like I said before, it drained the life out of me. Even though it was increasingly becoming a struggle for me to drag myself to office, trust me, I gave my 100% each day. This was when I knew that it was time for me to take that leap of faith. Go back to Mumbai to do what I always dreamed of doing, becoming an actor. No one took me seriously in office, but since they knew I was confident, they supported my decision. They even offered me the option of conducting shows from the Mumbai office. In fact, they were generous enough to let me use the Big FM accommodation in Mumbai. Kind though they were, I did get to know something from my previous producer Shruti about what had happened behind closed doors during this time. Remember, I told you earlier about the time Tarun said that he will make sure I became an actor when I expressed my aspiration for the same in front of him. When I knew I had to go to Mumbai and they were being all kind to me. Little did I know that they didn't have faith in me at all. Shruti told me that Tarun had said, "जाने दो इसको 2 हफ्ते में वापस आएगा." With God's grace, it's been over 7 years and I still haven't gone back. Gradually, I started auditioning in Mumbai while giving links for Big FM Delhi. At no point of my life did I put myself in a situation where I was cash strapped. I never put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't want to leave Big FM till the time I had something concrete on the acting front. And I think even they didn't want me to go because I was doing a good job. Soon, my first Balaji serial happened, Kayamat, where I played the second lead, and my not so memorable stint in television fiction shows started. During my stint with Big FM, apart from running my show, I also interviewed celebrities who would drop by to promote their movies or a cause. I remember my first celebrity interview was with Abhishek Bachchan, who came on the show to promote his film Guru. Saying that I was nervous would be an understatement. I sat in front of him and asked routine questions recording the interview on this humble flash recorder that I used to carry everywhere. When you are nervous, you don't really try and be funny or witty or entertaining. And if you try, you will most probably end up making a fool of yourself. Hence, I stuck to routine. Another interesting interview was with actress Keem Sharma, who at that time was apparently dating cricketer Yuvraj Singh. It was a Janta interview. Basically, she was addressing a whole bunch of journals, a minuscule part of which I was, since Sudha, my programming head, was aggressive about getting content. She pushed me to ask him a controversial question. And there, amidst the cacophony of journalists, came my timid question that immediately resonated in the mall where we were interviewing her. I'm sure most of you are familiar with those moments in life where you assume that your voice will drown in the sea of noise and you will get away with it. But apparently, what happens is just the opposite. The moment you open your mouth and those words that you never mean to utter come popping out, and there is this airy silence that does nothing more than establish the audacity of your stupid question. That is exactly what happened to me. I had the balls to ask her about Yuvraj, and suddenly there was this awkward silence in which she just stared at me with a blank expression. Her and everyone else's eyes were on me, and I just wanted to bury my head somewhere like an ostrich. Fortunately, Manish came to the rescue, quickly established that it was rather a stupid question and that everyone should continue with the interview, and whisked me away. That wasn't the only time I made a fool of myself. The examples are bountiful. Out of them, one more that I still remember vividly is the one where I had to interview Shah Rukh Khan. I had just shifted to Mumbai and was still recording links for Big FM. It was a huge moment for me, for I have been his fan ever since I can remember. He was shooting for an ad for Hyundai at Hiranandani Powai, and I was anxiously waiting outside his vanity van to interview. Just the fact that I was breathing in the same air as him was enough to give me a high. I stole a few glances of him shooting, and even though I waited for 4 hours outside his vanity, I didn't complain one bit. They seemed like fleeting moments. Sitting there, I wrote the world's most embarrassing letter. It went something like this: Dear Shah Rukh sir, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I am the same guy in blue shorts you met in Kasoli in 1995 while you were there shooting for Maya Memsab. You, I remember, were wearing a red suit. Now that same boy has grown up to become an RJ and wants to be an actor. Please give me a chance to prove myself. I'll be very grateful. Yours sincerely, Ayushman. Even reminiscing about what I had written gives me the creeps, though it also makes me crack up at my juvenile self. I know what you are wondering. Did I give that letter to him or not? And if I did, what was his response? I think I read that letter at least 100 times. Finally, I realized that it was the lamest thing ever. Slipping the letter into my pocket, I got up and left. Yes, I came back without giving the letter or taking the interview. Like I said, just watching him made me happy. Another embarrassing instance was my interview with filmmaker Karan Johar. As I have mentioned earlier, I was in Mumbai working for radio where the Indian Television Academy Awards were being held. I was hoping that my name would be suggested by Big FM for hosting the red carpet, as they were supposed to give the names of 2 radio jockeys for the same. The red carpet event was being televised. Unfortunately, Tarun didn't forward my name. Instead, Archana Jani and Rohit got to host the red carpet. I was a little envious as I was pushed inside a booth where I had to interview celebs, and it was being aired on all 45 stations of Big FM. But as luck would have it, amongst the many celebs who came to the booth was Karan Johar. In between the interview, I expressed my desire to become an actor and asked for his phone number. His priceless expression clearly said, "Really? You expect me to give you my personal number and that too on air so that the rest of the country also knows it?" I understood and quickly told him that he could give me his number post the interview as if I was obliging him. At the end of the interview, he gave me his office landline number. I was extremely excited and thought to myself, अब तो लाइफ सेट है, अब मुझे कोई रोक नहीं सकता. अब तो इंट्रोड्यूसिंग आयुष्मान खुराना है by Dharma Productions. The next day I dialed the number Karan had given me. They said Karan wasn't in office. The day after that I called again and they said he was busy. And finally my bubble burst when the subsequent day they told me bluntly, "We only work with stars and can't work with you." Ouch! That hurt, but I don't blame them. Now that I think about it, just how many people must be calling them each day, every minute, which is what leads me to my next quote. But before that, another humiliating experience, one that happened after I was told that I must do some lobbying to get work. I was in touch with this gentleman called Anurag Rao, who was essentially an event manager but also managed actors. He was Neha Dhupia's manager at that time. We met a couple of times and he then invited me to a page 3 party, suggesting that I build contacts there. When I reached the swanky hotel where the party was, I saw fancy cars lined up, causing me to park my humble car somewhere down the lane in an effort to hide it from view. So you see, my pretense started then only. As I entered the room, my eyes popped out as I saw the entire Bollywood fraternity there. There was Karan Johar, Sohail Khan, Salman Khan, Shilpa Shetty. Every celeb you could think of was in an attendance. Assuming I would make solid contacts and friends for life here, I entered the place with a confident stride. But sadly, nobody even acknowledged my royal presence, let alone bother striking a conversation with me. I felt so out of place. The only person who spoke to me was Rahul Khanna, who complimented me on the way I had hosted I Am She, the Miss Universe beauty pageant. But other than that, nothing. Now I could have either hung around at the party like a loser for another 2 hours or quietly made my exit. Thankfully, I chose the latter. That night was an eye opener for me. The elite world that I aspired to enter had depressed me not because I wasn't a part of it, but because I was being forced to be a part of it in order to become an actor. Code #6. There is no point in being one of many. No point in running towards fame. Absolutely no point in doing PR. No point in being ordinary. You have to rise above the rest in your given circumstances. Only then will people take notice of you. I ran around and after. I am confessing that I did. This quote can perhaps save you from the embarrassing moments that I went through. Hold your ground. Let your talent, your work, speak for you. There is not a chance you will be missed if you strive for excellence.